Welcome to Big Brave Business. This is the podcast where we answer big questions reshaping entrepreneurship. I'm Sarah K. Heeter, and this is Season 3. Each week, I'm bringing on my friends, mentors, and some of the best thought leaders I know. We dive into bold, values-driven conversations about leadership, equity, ethics, and building businesses that actually make a difference. Ready to do business better? Let's dive in. Welcome back to Big Brave Business. This will be an interesting one. We'll just see where it goes. We're talking about capitalism today, but first and foremost, let's give a big warm welcome to my guest, Lauren Glynn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
So when we scheduled this time, I was like, is there something pressing, burning on your mind, some big brave thing about running a business that you would like to talk about? And you said, I'd love to chat about the difficulty in leading a business in the current system. Capitalism sucks, but we're all stuck in it. And that's kind of like the thesis of Big Brave Business. So immediately I'm like, yes, we can talk about that. But tell me a little bit more about, especially like right now, why that feels like the big brave thing for you right now.
Yeah. So I help leaders of small businesses be better leaders. And right now, that's really hard. It's hard because there's a lot of outside pressure on business owners and business leaders to do the next big thing, to be more streamlined, to be more economical, to make more money. And for business owners who got into their business because they love what they do, that is not their instinct. They are not a CEO. They are not someone who has an MBA, probably, who is coming in because they want to make a buttload of money. Like, that's not why they're in business. However, there's a lot of outside forces that are kind of convincing them or pushing them to try to do that.
Yeah.
And the examples that they see out there right now are all of these layoffs, all of these people losing their jobs, all of these CEOs making millions by ruining the lives of the people that work for them, basically. And it can be really hard as a small business owner to see that and say, like, well, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, obviously, I don't have 30,000 people to lay off, looking at you, Oracle. But am I supposed to really just be going all in AI and like not hiring people? Am I supposed to really be focused on like how I make more money? Like, is that really what I want for my business?
Yeah.
So it can be really challenging as a small business owner in this environment. And plus, costs are going up. Everything is more expensive. We had that whole tariff catastrophe in the past few years. It's a lot of factors that are pushing against the business owner who wants to be a good steward of the people that work for them and be a good steward of the people that they work for, their clients. And so it's just, I think it's very timely to kind of talk through what that can look like as opposed to what the examples are that they're seeing right now.
Yeah, this is so interesting, especially the way that you've framed this, because what I've been going through, if you've been listening to this podcast week to week, you know this about me. I have been this year going through a little bit of an identity realignment. I don't want to say a crisis. It actually feels really good, but it's been like getting back on track to who I want to be and what's actually important to me. I called this podcast Big Brave Business. The brave part feels like the obvious part, right? That's what we do, is we're always having these brave conversations like this one, where like running a business is messy and it's complicated and it's hard, but also the big part was always really important to me because I really care about running a business that actually serves my life, my livelihood, my family, my impact on the world, my legacy for my family, my legacy in my community. Like there's so many layers to this of like, I'm not just trying to make enough money to pay my car payment. Like I want to build something that matters. And I want to connect with other people who feel drawn to that, right? What's interesting is, again, not to be repetitive if you've been listening to me exploring these concepts over the past few weeks, but I realized as I got some distance from some projects that didn't go the way that I thought they would this year, that would have meant much more rapid scaling. I started questioning everything. Like, whose idea of success am I even chasing? And I think it's just so exemplary of what you were just describing of like outside forces start to push you. Like, if you're good at it, and you have a knack for it and you're having success, quote unquote, whatever that means, like still in business in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, then the outside forces are like, okay, well then you're capable of doing the thing, like the capital thing. Like you should scale to some astronomical amount. You should become a medium-sized business, basically. You should be on track to that and you should sell. Like there's
Mhm.
so much pressure around like build a business you can sell. And that's the mark of being a successful business owner. And so many like women in particular do not, and people of color do not actually engage in the buying and selling businesses market. It's very much like an old white man form of doing business. And honestly, like if I'm being real, that should have been my first clue that I should interrogate it. Like not how do we get more diverse people in that space, but like is it a space that we even want to be the capital thing?
Right.
Anyway, I'm unpacking.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, and I think there's parts of that that we can still use, right? So the E-Myth Revisited is probably one of the books that you're kind of thinking of when you talk about selling businesses, because he talks about building a business you can sell. And it's a great book in the way that it helps you be out of the weeds of running your business. But the end goal doesn't have to be to sell it, right? It can be, okay, now the business is kind of humming in the background. I can do the parts that I love. I have other things doing the parts that I don't love. And now I can focus on the things that matter to me. So whether that's working directly with clients, whether that's focusing on philanthropy or volunteering, whether that's more time with your family, like whatever that may be. So I think there's pieces of that ideal or that thought that we can kind of pick and choose what works for us, and not it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So
Yeah, it's so true. And this whole idea of like doing the things you love, that's so funny because I think I had lost sight of that too. My husband is going to love this because he edits the podcast and he loves it when I give him credit. It's not going to sound like credit when I start this story, but follow me here. So a few years ago, we love to play these thought games with each other where it's like thought exercise. What about this? And we just like explore stuff. Not shocking if you listen to the podcast. Like, yeah, obviously that's who I am in my personal life and in my podcasting life. Anyway, so he had posed this question to me and he thought that I would find it really interesting from the perspective of like entrepreneurship and running a business and business leadership, etc., the big brave business of it all. And he said, if all of your needs were met, then what could a convenience store offer? What could a convenience store do that would make you want to work there? You don't need
Mhm.
to. What would make you want to? And I literally got stuck on like, if all my needs were met, what would I want? I mean, it's not even like I couldn't even get to the thought exercise he intended of like,
What
when
would the
running a
benefit be?
business, what can we do
Yeah.
differently? Like, what can we build differently? How do we like make it appealing for people to like want to work there and like be part of the community in that way? I couldn't even get to that because what I kind of realized, and this takes us back to the capitalism point. It's all about capitalism, by the way. If this is
Always,
kind of
sadly.
new subject matter for you, just like hang in there with us. But the whole concept of like, if all my needs were met, what would I even want is hard for me to even imagine because literally everything I do, everything I want, everything I like is based on like, what do I need physically? Like, what is my body telling me I need? What is my family telling me they need? What is my community telling me they need? Like, so if all our needs were met, what would I even like? I don't
Mhm.
know. Like, I don't know. I like my forms of play or rest because I need them because my needs are not met. Like I can't. So anyway, I just find that interesting, but I don't even remember now why that felt compelling to share in this moment, except for you said like focus on the things that you you get to focus on the things you love. If you can scale a business to a certain point in a certain way, you get to do the parts you love. And I think this year has been sort of a reassessment of like, what are the things I like doing? Like, how did I get away from this? But also, what does that even this sounds like I'm having a crisis. I promise it's not a crisis. I feel really, really good. But like, how do I even know what it is I like? Anyways, what's coming up for you?
Well, the thing that I would also challenge you with is that probably changes all the time, the things that you like. And that's okay. Like, it's all right if you thought you liked something or you used to like something in a different phase of your business and now you don't like it anymore. Maybe working with clients was something you used to really love and now you're like, nah, it's more of a grind at this point. I don't want to interact with other people. Like, no, I don't want meetings on my calendar ever. Like, that's okay. It's okay for it to evolve and change. And the whole point is we want to build a business in an ethical way. A lot of what we were talking about before we started recording is the ethics of how you build that kind of business in an ethical way so that you feel good about what you're putting out into the world and you have the mental space and the capacity and the financial support to do those things that you enjoy. And it's funny that you say, what would they offer you to make you want to take a job at a convenience store? I actually took a part-time job this summer, not because I needed it, but because I thought I would enjoy it. And I don't know, you don't do video, but for people who have seen the pictures, probably the promotional material, I'm sitting in an RV right now because I live in an RV park for 6 months out of the year in the summer. And the people who own the RV park were looking for someone to work the front gate, basically make sure everybody who comes in has paid or is supposed to be here. Like, it's not a super high stress job. But the people who work here are so incredibly wonderful. They're so nice. Like, I enjoy socializing with them. I enjoy spending time with them. It's a very low stakes job for me. And the money's not great, but I'm not doing it for the money. And so to me, like, I've already kind of done that thought exercise that you were talking about. Is like, they would need to offer a really good community. It would have to be great people to work with. And the job would have to be fairly low stress. And I enjoy it. Like, so if you're listening to this and thinking like, what would I need in a job if I wasn't doing it for the money, like, think through what that might look like, because that could be your clue as to what your business should look like at the end, like,
Yeah.
or not the end, what you're building towards.
Next. Yes.
Exactly. So like for me, it's showing me like, okay, I want a business where I work with really great people and I work for really great people, as in my clients, and it's social, it's low stress, and I get to do things that I enjoy. Like, that's what I'm working towards in my business, my business. So that's a great exercise for your listeners to do, to think towards like, okay, well, what am I actually working for? What's the point? Like, once I make all this money, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I'm such a person and I wonder if the person listening can relate to what I'm saying. I am such a person who's driven by work and capitalism has done this to us, right? Where like I enjoy working and I've shared this on the podcast before where sometimes if I'm kind of coming out of my skin a little bit or whatever, Eric will literally say to me, like, just go do a couple hours of work. You're going to feel so much better. You're going to, like, you love what you do. You're going to feel back in touch with what you're doing. You're going to feel more in control of your to-do list. Like, everything's going to feel better if you just go do a couple hours of work. Listen, we're working on deprogramming some of this, but
I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you recognize it.
no, I believe me, I do know. And I think like when I've thought about even selling my business, like when the business sells, what next? It's not like, oh, then I have total like time and location freedom and I'm going to like travel the world. I would love to travel the world. That's definitely like a thing that's important to me in my life. I think a lot about philanthropy. You mentioned that earlier. Like giving goals are some of my favorite, actually my favorite financial goals, truly. Like more than things that I want in my life. It's like, oh my gosh, what I would love to fund. Like, this is what I would love to do. If I had more resources, this is how I would share them. And that feels really, really exciting and fun. Always, even from the time I was young, like that question of like, what would you do if you won the lottery? Like, what would you do with that money?
Yeah.
It's always been giving goals for me. I have a really good time with that. And by the way, if you've never played with that, like do it. Just come up with like an arbitrary number. You can look up what the current, like, I don't know, lottery numbers are in your state or whatever. And just say, like, if I had this amount of money, how would I distribute it? Where would I give it? Like, what would I give to? And it's just really fun. But I think that stuff is definitely true. I did have those thoughts, but about selling my business, but I also was like, well, then this is the next business I would build. Like, this is the next thing I would work on. And it would be nice if I could build that without the pressure of like, I also need to make sure dinner's on the table and I can keep a roof over my head. Like,
Mhm.
if that pressure was alleviated, but I'm still thinking about work. Like, this is the next work I would do. Right.
Mhm.
So, anyways, all of that to say, I think it is interesting how much that outside influence of capitalism does impact.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go back to how I define, like, what it is I want. I mean, I spend so much time thinking about, like, what work was I put on this earth to do? And it's funny because, I mean, why do we make the assumption that humans were put on this earth to work? Like, we don't
Right.
think that about somebody said this to me yesterday. We don't think that about birds. We're not like, wow, that bird is lazy and their song sucks. Like, no, they literally like fly around and like have babies and feed their babies and sing. Like, that's like that's
Yep.
what their whole
And they
existence is.
eat out
And
of my bird feeders. That's pretty much it.
yeah. So like, why do we even have this innate assumption that there's work we were meant to do? I mean,
Mhm.
work is just like the vehicle that we have to do to provide a life for ourselves because we are unfortunately forced to live in capitalism. But
Right.
truly, like, yeah, it shouldn't be about work. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
and it's funny because I actually have the opposite problem. I
Mm.
am always thinking about all the things outside of work that I wanna be doing. So, like, I moved into this RV last week, and I'm thinking like, "Oh, I wanna decorate, and I wanna do the outside, and I wanna do," and I'm like, "Oh, but I have to sit and work. I have to sit and do this. I have to do the," no offense, "I have to sit and do this podcast interview." And it's funny because I think a few years ago, I would have been where you are, where I'm like, "Okay, well, what work can I be doing? What can I how can I be productive?" And I think to me, the drive was always, I have to be doing something productive until I had brain surgery in 2019. I had a benign tumor removed in 2019, and suddenly I had no energy. I had no focus. I knew what brain fog was before the rest of the world did. And it's interesting how that kind of situation can refocus you. And I'm not wishing this on you, of course, but maybe think through like, if I had a big health scare, what would I change about my life? Like what would be different for me? And so for me, I'm very much about like making time for my hobbies. Like you can see all the plants behind me, like all the indoor plants. I also have plants outside that you can't see. There's also a jigsaw puzzle in progress behind me on the other side. Like I almost make too much time for my hobbies. And it doesn't help that I'm in a place where most people are on vacation all the time. But think through, what would my life look like if I didn't, just like the original question of, if all your needs were taken care of, what would your life look like? What do you enjoy? Then what would my life look like if suddenly I had a big health scare and realized like, okay, work isn't actually everything. And that's kind of the basis of capitalism, is they want you to think work is everything. They want you to think, and I know you started the process of deprogramming, but they want you to think that work is the end all be all of everything. And the reality is, when you own a business, you can decide what work looks like. You can decide how much you work, how little you work, how much money you make relatively. And that in itself, I think, is a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Fight back against capitalism. It's a really good way to say, no, I'm not buying into your system. I'm not, as much as I can opt out. I'm not going with what you're saying that I have to do. I'm not showing up 9 to 5 every day. I work probably 3 or 4 hours every day in my business because I have ADHD and brain tumor recovery, and I can't work 9 to 5. Like there's no focus there. It's not happening. So I think that's a really good sort of way to be a little bit anti-capitalist, is to say, no, I'm going to build my own business that supports my life in a way that I want to live it, and not be work focused 24/7, because it really does impact your mental health. It impacts your physical health. Like I am in the best shape I've ever been in. And I will say that it's a privilege, right? To to do that. But also for me, it's reality. Like there's no world in which I could be productive for 8 hours a day. It's just not reality. So I could sit here at my computer and pretend to be working, but am I really working? Am I surfing the internet? Am I researching on threads? Like, is it actually productive work? Or should I say, no, I'm going to have 2 to 4 hours of really focused work a day, and that's enough. Like, that's enough to get me where I need to go. So, just some things for you to think about as you're reprogramming yourself.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think it's a beautiful outcome of a really scary situation that you experienced. And interestingly, I'm fascinated because you don't very often have something like that in common with people, but I had a very similar situation actually as a teenager. And what's interesting is happening at a very different part of my life. I
Mhm.
think is part of the reason, because as you were saying that, I was reflecting like, that's interesting. How come my own situation did not affect me that way, a benign brain tumor? And I think that the only thing I can think is that I came into adulthood, like I came of age very much with this question of like, what was I put on this earth to do? Like, I need to
Mhm.
make this matter. What was I put here to do? What's the big thing that I'm here to do? Why am I here? That's really, and to me, what I struggled with was this, and I always have, is this concept of like really making it count, but making it count means like also as far as impact on the world, impact on my community, impact on everyone else. And so like I've had trouble with hobbies. I've had trouble with play. I've had trouble with rest. I've had trouble with like anything that feels like wasting time. And
Mhm.
of course, I've heard the old adages, right? Like we all have of like, time enjoyed is not wasted. And it's like, okay, not if you have this one precious life and like, what am I here to do with it? I have this innate belief, and I wonder if this resonates with you or to you listening. I wonder if it resonates with you. I have this innate belief that I am smarter than most. I'm just going to say it. I have an innate belief that I have the talent and the skills that are rare, unusual, uncommon. I think we have that in common, and that's part of why we're here in the big brave business space, right? Is like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
don't get to this point if you kind of aren't, to sound very millennial
Exceptional.
about it. Yeah, I was gonna say special. I like exceptional better. That's like even more of what I encompassing what I'm trying to say. But the pressure, the internal pressure of then I have to make that count. And if I don't make an impact and I do have the gifts to do so, then who will? And like we can't wait for somebody else to do the stuff that matters to make the world better. But what's interesting about this, Lauren, is that I have, as I've been kind of coming back to myself this year and really exploring, like, who even do I want myself to be? Right. But
Mhm.
also, like,
Mhm.
who am I? Who am I? Who have I always been? Building a business that I can sell did have some goals attached of interrupting family legacy, or of, let me rephrase that, of interrupting familial patterns, generational patterns of
Mm.
a lack of money, also leaving a family legacy, also a level of financial security for myself and for my kids that like previous generations of my family have never known, also giving goals, like I mentioned. Like there's a lot of good, there's a lot of impact there that does exist. But the obsession that I had kind of gotten into of who do I need to be in order to make this business really marketable got away from the mission and the core values of like, I could be making a difference right now. I don't have to
Mhm.
wait until I have a certain amount of resources or I hit a certain point or I sell a business. I don't need those success markers in order to be making a difference now. And so how do I just build a business that's already making a difference? Which is where I started, truly. Like you said that at the beginning, like when we started a business, we had ideas about like what we wanted, what kind of work we wanted to do, who we wanted to work with, like what kind of impact we want to make. It's not about the MBA and it's not about wanting to make so much money. And it really wasn't when I started my business. My gosh, I didn't even know, it hadn't even entered my consciousness that I could build a business I could sell. What it
Mhm.
was about is like the company I'd been working for was sold out from under me and a bunch of us were all of us were laid off. I had just gotten a raise and a promotion, so I really thought I was coming along
Oh,
with the
no.
sale. Truly, I really thought I was coming along with the sale. I thought that my foreseeable future was with that company, through the transitions. I knew it was really hard to watch all the other layoffs, but I truly thought like I was one of the ones who made it. And so it totally pulled the rug out from under me. We shared this on the podcast before, but my husband was working part-time at a movie theater while he was getting his master's degree at the time. It was like a bucket list item. Like, we're in a financial position. We can. If this is something you've always wanted, go back to school and get it, right? It's fine.
Mhm.
And then this happened, and that was all 2019. So right before COVID. So like it was
Mhm.
just wham, 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 wham. Right. And when I was exhausted and depleted, and this was even before COVID, this was 2019, exhausted and depleted, and I thought, I don't want to do interviews and be like this version of myself that I'm not feeling. I don't want to, if I got the job, then I'd have to walk in every day and be that person,
Yeah.
and I'm just and
Mhm.
fake it till you make it, right? And I just don't have it in me. I wanna be in my pajamas, and I wanna work 2 to 4 hours a day, and I wanna, like, try to see if I can make enough money that we could live on it without having to be working on stuff I don't care about with people I don't like, building somebody else's net worth and somebody else's vision and somebody
Mhm.
else's impact and legacy. Like, that's what I want to try to do. And let's just like see if it works. That's truly where I started. And it's so interesting to think of how, like, as soon as it entered my consciousness, like maybe 2 years in, oh, the marker of success as an entrepreneur is to build a business you can sell. It became like a singular focus of like, this is what I have to do in order, like, if anybody's capable, I'm capable. So then I have to like make this happen. Anyways,
Mhm.
capitalism is wild because it just really like it's insidious the way it like creeps into your brain chemistry and impacts the way you make decisions. And that was one of the things you had mentioned about what you wanted to talk about, right? Is how we make decisions. And so I say this on the podcast all the time, but it's how we make every decision in our business. But when you had said that about making decisions, what did that mean to you?
It's interesting to me to take a step back to think through like how you evolved from when you started your business to now of like this is what I wanted when I started versus now, and that's totally understandable that it changes, right? We evolve as people, our businesses evolve, but I think that I would be interested to understand why you feel such pressure for, and I know you're interviewing me and I'm kind of flipping it around, why you feel such pressure for making an impact. Like,
Mm,
what do you think you are doing wrong if you don't use these gifts in a very specific way? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing is I was given these gifts and if I don't use them in a very specific way, something bad is going to happen or it won't look good or whatever. Whatever. I'm interested to know why you think or why you feel so strongly
yeah.
that you have to use these gifts in such a specific way.
Yeah, that's the big question, and my mom would love to know the answer to that too. It's something she's been asking since I was a small child of like, where does this pressure come from? Because it is internal. It's not something that, well, it's internal, but I do think it's external from the standpoint of like the way we talk about what society puts pressure
Mhm.
on us to do. I think that that's part of it. I've been really involved. I've shared this with the National Association of Women Business Owners here in Phoenix, and the programming that we've been doing with the Phoenix chapter for the past 2.5 years has all been around helping women build businesses that they can one day sell and that they can do it in a really informed way. So they're not making bad deals and they understand like the terms of what it is. But also, how do you even get there? How do you build a business that's sellable in the first place? Like it really is like reinforced in so many places. It's in the books that you read, it's in the coaches that you follow, and of course, like even these networking spaces, what we're like teaching, right? So there's that. But really, you can go all the way back to my childhood and see that same pressure of like that social justice warrior of collecting kids who were sitting alone, and like nobody's sitting alone where you have a place to sit, like, and the pressure to do good, to be good, to be the best person that I can be. I just care very deeply about that. It's such a like strong value of mine of being the best person I can be. And I would say in response to what what's the bad thing if you don't? The bad things are already happening, right? Like the bad things are all around us all the time. The bad things are literally costing people their lives, their livelihoods, their
Mhm.
safety, their ability to pursue happiness or whatever the hell our rights are supposed to be. And
In theory.
so it's one of those bleeding heart. I watch that these bad things are happening all the time. And honestly, like it takes good people, truly good people who have the skills, the talent, the intelligence, and the determination to actually make it better, to intervene. And yeah, it does feel like if I have been given, if you want to think of it as gifts, if I've been given these gifts, I have them, right? And it's not just me. I collect people who I think are special. I think like recognizes like. That's what I always say. So it's like we can recognize each other. Like you
Mhm.
also have this, right? And I think that if we don't, who will? Nobody. We just continue hurting each other, harming the planet, making the future of humanity is bleak and short. So unless we fix that, like we won't have a planet to live on and we won't have communities to invest in. Like so
Mhm.
I think it really is about that of like, no, I see the bad happening everywhere. I see it all it's already happening. So it's more about like I don't know, maybe it goes back to, like, some degree of the '90s, the early '90s, like, "Hey, we need anti-bullying campaigns, like, see something, say something, like, it's your job
Dare
to
and
stand
Captain
up," and, like
Planet and
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, maybe it's part of that, I don't know, I'm not sure where it comes from. I don't know if it's caused by something, if it's inherently just who I am at my core, but those are the beliefs that I carry. I do think there's something to be said in the deconstruction of, like, the future of humanity doesn't sit on my shoulders. I'm not like Superman. I get that. Like, yeah, fair. But what good can I do while I'm here? And will it ever feel like enough? I think, and I don't think that's an unrelatable
No.
perspective. I
No.
certainly have met enough of us who are determined to do good that can relate to that. It can trigger some unhealthy patterns. I also think it's important though, because again, if not us, who? Like, who's gonna do
Right.
it?
Yeah, and so that's all interesting. I think the thing
Here's
well, the
therapy
thing
hour.
well, and the thing that I would encourage you to think through, and I'm sure you already are, is how can you help people if you yourself are not taken care of first? Because if you are in a place
That's
where
so true.
you are completely anxious, if you are totally overwhelmed by all the misery and the shit that's going on in the world, if you are constantly focused on all of the bad and thinking through like all of the worst case scenarios of like if I don't do something, here are all the things that are going to happen, then you can't help anyone, right? You
Yeah.
are not in a position to actually help anyone. And this is the sort of realization that I've come to as I've turned 40 this year, is that I have that need and that drive to want to do good and help people, but I have also recognized that like I can't help anyone if I myself am not already taken care of, if I'm not looking after my health and mental health, if I'm not doing the things that I love to make myself feel good, then I can't do good.
Mhm.
So I think it sounds like you're kind of unlearning it a little bit as you are. That pressure will always be there. The question is, how do you balance what you need with what you need to give the world? And I think it's
Mhm.
going to be very important for you and everyone listening, right, to figure out what that balance looks like. It's something
Yes.
that I've only recently been able to really kind of figure out, and I don't know that I could even verbalize it, but it has to be both. It can't be all one or all the other. And that's really hard. Like, it's a really hard thing to do. So,
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because yes, I am rapidly approaching 40 and my friend Rachel K. Albers, if any of you want to go follow her on social media or if you already do. My friend Rachel was having this conversation with me not on the podcast privately and we were talking about some of the stuff that I've been unpacking, unlearning, rewiring and she said to me and I wonder if this is kind of what you're thinking. She said to me, "Ah, yes, this sounds like you're offboarding your 30s." And I thought that was such a funny way to put it. She said, "There's a reason why like that we refer to women in their 40s as being in their don't give a fuck era." And
mhm.
she was like, "You're coming into that. That's what's happening right now. Whatever's
Yep.
going on here, that's this." So yeah, I have heard this recently, and I think that you probably are spot on. And that it feels really exciting to me, to be honest. And I think it's important to talk about because I don't feel like in the spaces that I'm in, at least, I'm not seeing other content where we're able to talk about this and to talk about what this means, especially as business owners, and how to navigate this when you are kind of surrounded by, like, all of the business books, like you were mentioning the business books, the coaches,
The hustle
even, like, big
culture,
name,
the
smaller
Hormozis of the
coaches. How
world.
do you know whether somebody's gonna be aligned with you? How do you navigate this? How do you have these conversations? Who's equipped to have these conversations with you? I feel like that's hard to navigate, and so we feel very isolated. I say all the time, like, entrepreneurship is so lonely, and I'm gonna, like, actually go ahead and say capitalism is so lonely, and it's on purpose,
Yes.
right? Like,
As I was gonna say, that's by design.
yes, and yes, exactly, same page. So, it's so isolating, and it's so lonely, and as we're going through this, and whatever version of this applies to you, whatever it looks like for you personally, like, I think it's important that we have these conversations, and I wanna do that here. So, yeah. But I'm looking at the time, and I know you came with this topic, and this has really been Sarah's therapy hour. So, what else were you hoping to talk about when it comes to, especially in the spirit of, like, what you do and how you work with clients to navigate this kind of stuff compared to kind of business advice is out there? Like, what do we do from here, Lauren?
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is help business owners lead their teams in an ethical way, right? So how do you hire and lead the people that you need to help run your business in a way that doesn't feel exploitative, that doesn't take advantage of them, that really uses their talents in a way that they want? I want to be used as a weird way to phrase it, but like works with them in a way that is productive for both of you, right? How do you develop those relationships with the people that you're working with? Whether you're collaborating with someone or you're actually hiring them officially, how does that all work? And so that's a lot of what I work through with my clients is, okay, well, I want an admin, but I don't want to hire, I don't want to underpay, but I also have a budget. How do I do that ethically? Is it ethical to hire a VA from the Philippines, like to do the things that I need to do when someone in the US would cost probably 3 times as much to do the same work? Am I helping out someone in a lesser advantaged country, or am I taking away an opportunity from someone in the US? So working through all of these is really important as a business owner. And then also once you do have them, how do you set the right expectations so that you set them up for success? How do you communicate effectively with them so that they feel supported? How do you develop them? Because yes, you should be developing the people that are working for you, even if they're contractors.
Mhm.
How do you build systems and processes with things like AI, knowing some of the ethical considerations that come along with AI, but
Yep.
also living in this world that we live in where AI is kind of indispensable in business these days? So, how do you navigate all of those sort of aspects of business? That's a lot of what I work through with my clients specifically because they're at that inflection point, kind of like you were a couple of years ago, like you were saying, of like, I've been in business for a couple of years. I have some success. I have some people that I work with, but like, where do I go from here? Do I want to keep building a team? What does that sort of end goal or medium term goal look like for me? And how do I build my business to get there? So that's a lot of what I talk through with my clients, work through with them.
Yeah, I think this is so interesting because we've talked on the podcast quite a bit about some of these elements, right? Like a little bit around hiring. We have talked about kind of the hiring process, I guess, primarily in that sense. We've also talked on the podcast quite a lot about AI, and I think that's not going anywhere. I think the nuances of the conversation are important, and they're continuing to develop all the time, and so we'll keep talking about that. But I love that you also brought up, like, making decisions like hiring a VA from the Philippines and managing that budget, especially as you're just trying to start growing. You've just gotten to a point where you need help, and so you don't have a ton of your budget's very limited, and how do you navigate, like, those ethical qualms, I don't know, come up in every aspect of running a business. Oh, we've talked about it with pricing, even setting up an offer, I think, like, what does the offer
Hmm.
even include, and what are the stipulations? One of the conversations I see a lot on social media, and I think I've brought it up on the podcast once or twice before, has to do with what happens when somebody no-shows or is very late to a call. Like, how do you handle it? How do you navigate it? And there's so much kind of what I would call, like, corporate capitalism influence in the conversations that are happening, I do think there's something to be said for like respecting each other and like caring
Yeah.
about showing up for each other. It's not that that's not unwarranted, but I always say, and I'll say this all day long, like, especially a stranger on the internet, like, you don't owe me anything. If you don't show up to a call that we scheduled, like, we've no investment in each other at that point, right? But
Mhm.
even the people who I do have an investment in, my friends, my family, my clients, who literally are investing in me. If somebody is late to a call or no shows, my always first assumption is like they're doing the best they can. And I just
Yeah,
feel
or
like
like,
we
what happened?
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I just feel like we could all lead with a little bit more of that level of energy of, like, assuming that we're all doing the best we
Mhm.
can. Nobody, especially my clients, right, or friends, are not setting out to disrespect me. That's not that's I don't work with
Right.
anybody who feels that way about me. So if they no show a call, it's because they're doing the best they can, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
everything's hard. I don't
Existing
know.
in life is hard right now.
So I just feel like kind of how we navigate literally like every decision, every quote unquote policy that we make in our business, every boundary that we set, every like we're doing the best we can for ourselves and for the people we're interacting with and navigating that amidst all of the socialization that's happened to us
Mhm.
is hard. Like deprogramming, even knowing that there is something to deprogram, like,
Mm.
oh, wait, actually, this is a problem. I didn't realize that until someone pointed it out to me. And then what do I do with that? Because now I'm very stressed about it. Like, this is kind of inherently existing as a business owner in capitalism, I think.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't get talked about enough. Like, people talk about the logistics of being a business owner, they talk about how to create an offer, how do you market, blah blah blah, but they don't really talk about the ethical questions surrounding all of those decisions. And it's interesting that you talk about like we're all doing the best we can. When I started at Apple, everybody does their like training to say like this is how we do things at Apple and blah blah blah. And one of their core things that they I'm sure they have a specific phrase for it is assume positive intent.
Mhm.
Every interaction that you are having, whether it's with a customer, another employee, your manager, whatever, assume positive intent. And what that means is assume that everyone is working from the right place. Like they are trying their best. They are working from what they think is right. And they're not coming at you intentionally to be a dick. They're not coming at you to intentionally make your life hard. They are working from you should assume at the beginning that they are coming at you with the best intentions. And so I have lived my life and my business from that ethos of like assume positive intent. If someone no shows me, I'm going to reach out and say, "Hey, did something go wrong? Like, are you okay? What
Yeah.
happened? Do you need to reschedule?" Like, I'm not going to come out and be like, "You owe me $50 because you didn't show up."
Yeah.
Clients or prospects or networking or whatever. Like, we're all just humans trying to exist in this world right now. So assuming positive intent is just it's one of the core ethos of my businesses. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
So I've loved this conversation. And I think that, yeah, thanks for, as a somebody that I just met, thanks for holding space and asking the questions back to like dig into what's going on, what's really going on, what are the really big questions. And I think that like to me, first of all, that is such an indicator of like what a more or less however you want to phrase it, because in this case, we're not coaching, right? We're just chatting on a podcast. But like what a coaching relationship really should look like is like, let's explore. And I think also what's the real question? Like what's the underlying question? And so yeah, I think like you picked up on some really cool stuff there of like, I'm hearing you say this. Like, yes, you did. So yeah, anyway, thank you for that. Thanks for holding space for that. Thank you, who's listening. Thank you for holding space for us as well and for taking this journey with us. And if you relate, if you don't relate, if you have thoughts, we want to hear from you about it. We would love to continue having these conversations with you. Our inboxes/DMs are enthusiastically open. You are so
Mhm.
invited in to have more conversation about this with us. So send it either of us, both of us, whatever, a voice memo or personal essay or just a quick thought or a question. All of our information is in the description of the episode, as well as links to connect with us. Lauren, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a different but so needed conversation, and I'm glad that you enjoyed me secretly, sneakily coaching you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I really do. I'll listen. I'll take free coaching all day long. But also, this is the this is the 2026 theme for Sarah, is like unpacking this, and it all kind of comes back to what I had said to you before we even hit record, which is like, yeah, coming back to myself and like getting realigned with who I even want to be. Like what
And
am I
why?
doing
I
here?
think the
Yeah.
why is the other piece for you too.
Yeah, yeah. Why has to matter, right? That's why people say ask it 6 or 7 times or whatever. So
The 5 whys is one of the coaching exercises.
yeah, yeah, there you go. Yes. So I always try to make it more than 5. And
I mean, you could
this is
do
not the
more,
first
but
time someone has corrected me. I've never actually done the exercise, but I know what it is. So I feel like I spend my whole life asking why. When like toddlers do that and then they, in theory, like grow out of it, I feel like I never grew out
Mm,
of it. I just started a podcast
right.
and
Well,
I
and I
just
became a
we just
coach, so
yeah,
same
exactly.
thing.
So we just get to ask it all the time. Anyways, thank you. And yeah, well, you'll have to come back and we'll do it again.
Yes. I have so much more to say, so I'm excited.
And to you listening, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.